persist until the formation of the National Wrestling Alliance in 1948. The NWA as a central governing body, with its singular, undisputed world champion, would be absolute and undeniable. This control, combined with the expansion of the interstate highway system, and the inevitable popularity and availability of regional television, would usher in an era of wrestling that was defined by what would come to be known as the territory system. The territory system would dominate wrestling for nearly 4 decades, while the borders, authority, popularity, and obedience of individual NWA territories was in a near constant state of flux. To this day, the impact and influence of these territories is still felt. Each territory had its own signature promoter and star. While it is impossible to cram these characteristics into a static, concrete map, we are damn sure going to try anyway.
So open up your eyes, way before it gets too late. Now run, man, there's no way you can hit the street lights running, don't give a damn. A simple explanation that you'll never find. Sinners never sacrifice, we never leave love alone. Is hate really worth the price? Look at what we've done. Never care for compromise, always threatening someone's life, and it feels like the end of the world.
All right, another week of This Week in Wrestling with your host, Monty and the Pharaoh. So, Jimmy, flamboyant Welsh wrestler Adrian Street dies at 82. The pioneering Welsh wrestler Adrian Street, who found fame after leaving his mining community to become a flamboyant fighter, has died at the age of 82. The performer... Let's see what we got here. 12,000 fights during his career.
Jeez. That's a lot.
He actually drop-kicked Jim Savali, and not the Jim Savali you're thinking
Jimmy
about.
Safe Hill.
They called him Savali,
Did they?
Yes.
They might have. I don't know.
You know who that guy
He's like
right?
some famous dude in England. I know that much.
Well, he's a famous child molester in England.
Yes.
He was famous.
I am aware.
Yeah, right. So he was definitely
I
a
am
famous
aware.
DJ, and then was a famous child molester.
Yeah, and he
the
had
government
a
protected.
very short wrestling career
Yes.
before he was super famous, and most people don't even know about that.
That's right.
Nice job
and
there.
I guess he must have wrestled.
Well, we know what he was not supposed to be wrestling.
That's right. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So thoughts on Adrian Street, someone we don't mention often, but did have some influence on you.
I almost am more curious to hear your reaction because I know how much you love this guy. I mean, I know you definitely like this guy quite a bit, right? I mean, my first memories, real quick, was... You know, in those early days of surfing the UHF channels, I saw him. And my first reaction as a kid was like, what am I looking at? What is this? I thought he was very, very hard to turn the TV off. Let's put it that way when I would see him. Guy could go, too. He could go.
I think I first noticed him when you turned me on to California wrestling with
There
the
you go.
Guerreros. And again, I forget, Black Gordman was one guy.
Yeah, and of course, John Tolos. He was constantly
I don't remember
on.
Tolos, to be
That's
honest
weird.
with you.
He was
I don't.
constantly on.
You're probably right. I probably just don't remember
He
the
was,
names.
yeah, he was on.
But I found Adrian Street to be a bit like...
mesmerizing.
Yeah, totally different. But it's
could wrestle.
funny because I think, you know, I used to be like, oh, man, that guy's pretty cool. And then when the WWE changed Adonis to that Adrian Street character, I kind of just forgot about Adrian Street.
It's so weird, too, because now years later, of course, I see the obvious, patterning of Adonis's character to Adrian. But at the time, he wasn't reminding me of Adrian at all.
Wow.
No, with that stupid hat and the flower shop.
Well,
and
it was
everything.
Adonis was well over. I think Adonis's main thing was to make sure that no one actually thought he was homosexual.
Interesting.
Like, you know what I mean?
Interesting.
Like, just give it enough that, like, so over the top, you're like, this guy's not really homosexual.
Well, you know what I thought when I first looked at Adrian Street is don't forget, my dad got me interested in wrestling because of Gorgeous George, and Gorgeous George had a valet.
Right.
So when I saw Adrian Street, I thought to myself, I guess this is Gorgeous George in drag.
Right. That's fair.
I mean, he felt like the next strange step in the evolution of that sort of thing, whatever that may be.
Well, back to
but he's great at it.
That's a legitimate, a really good comment. But I was just thinking when Adonis came out, I always thought to myself, why didn't they just bring in Adrian Street?
Right.
But again,
Kind of small.
He was very.
I knew you were going there.
Yeah.
You're right to go there.
But then again, all the wrestlers say that he was one tough mother. So
yeah, go figure, right?
Right.
Nobody wanted to mess with the guy, so he was obviously clearly tough. 12 to 15,000 wrestling matches. Can you even compute that? I mean, there's 365 days in a year.
Yeah.
And we know they work 350 sometimes.
Right.
But
right,
I mean,
yeah,
that's
right.
a lot.
A lot.
Decades and decades and decades. And he made it to what? 82? I guess
Funny,
wrestling is not always bad for
in
you.
all the articles that you read, no one mentioned that he was sitting front row for the London match between Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre.
He was in the front row.
Yeah,
Did they show him?
They did show him, and no one mentions it.
Wow.
At all.
You know, Triple H loved this guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's coming out now that he loved this guy. And I did see he got a little dedication before Raw this week.
Right.
So that's nice.
Yeah.
But what do you think? Missed opportunity that we never got to see Adrian Street in the WWE? I'm going to go with yes, a little bit. A little bit. He was small, but he was tough.
How about missed opportunity for us? Because you remember in the early days, he was going to be one of our first guests. We were going to get up at 3 in the morning because he was in England. Remember that whole spiel?
Yeah, he really wouldn't work with us much. That's what I remember.
Yeah, right.
And he wanted an exorbitant amount of cash
Yeah.
for us to get up in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Now, you know me in the middle that's when I go to bed.
Right.
So basically, I was like, let me get this straight. He wants blankety blank, so I can come over to your place at 3, which I'm sure Mrs. Young would love.
Right,
We're here to talk.
Weren't we going to try to shoot it out of the first studio we're at? What were we thinking about that?
We were willing to find someone's spare closet to do
Right.
it. It wasn't like we weren't trying to do it. We were going to give him we were going to try to make it happen.
Funny thing, though, is I do remember, because I think, we'll talk about him at the other show, but Hannibal, who always just follows the train,
Puts the lotion in the basket.
right? He had him on, and after that interview, I was like, thank God we didn't have him on.
Was it that bad? You know me.
I saw him once on Hannibal, and I saw him on The Kid from England.
Okay. Were they the same as far as, an interviewer sometimes can make some magic, but it doesn't sound like that happened in either case.
Well, I would have thought you would have seen them, because you were a decent Adrian Street guy, and you watch The Kid from England every so often.
Once in a blue moon.
If something tickles
It's got to
your
be
fancy.
right, exactly.
I will tell you that it's really, I got to be honest with you, I don't really like a lot of people from England. I hate to say it.
What's with England?
I can't watch movies with English actors. It drives me nuts.
Now that we all know that Monty is right and the Beatles are not the all-time selling whatever, Mr. Rihanna. How many websites did you go to before you got that information?
I went to one. And
I saw about 7 others that said something else.
I actually,
you know what's funny? I bet you there's no truth to this. When you see so many different ones, it's like, you know what, who cares anymore?
But to be honest with you,
Beatles changed the world. Rihanna didn't.
When I looked at Rihanna, I'm like, Rihanna?
I know. Okay,
this got to be a
better.
type. This must be a type.
I feel better now.
But just for show purposes,
did Elvis change the world?
Of course.
Did the Beatles change the world?
Of course.
Did Rihanna change the world?
No.
Okay, cool. We're cool.
No.
Then we're cool. That's pretty much
But
it.
to be fair to you, did Iron Maiden change the world?
No.
Did Nirvana change the world?
Everybody got depressed and started wearing flannels.
But did they change the word?
No.
What? Really?
But
I
you
would say yes.
You know what? I was trying to lead you. I threw one down the middle for you. Everybody started wearing flannels and got depressed.
Right. Yeah.
So I guess he kind of did.
I think so. I mean,
Now hold on though. That would mean though too that Iron Maiden somewhat changed the world because we all wanted to dress. Well, the back hall kids
Right.
did. So I guess there was some influence.
Well, I think there's a difference between it being a great all-time band and being a game changer.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And
You
I
know
think
what?
that list of game changers.
That's the Beatles.
Or the Beatles.
Right.
I would almost, if I could fairly say this, maybe the Bee Gees.
The Bee Gees are the giants of what they did. I don't think they have a superior. I don't know.
I'm
about
not comparing
changing the
bands. What I'm
world.
talking about just changing the
That's
world.
interesting.
Musical-wise.
Michael Jackson changed the world?
Yeah, absolutely.
Prince? It's interesting how that works,
Good
right?
one.
So
Good one.
is
No, but I'm
Michael
gonna say no.
is Michael Hogan and Prince Savage?
Yes.
Very interesting.
That's
I like
really-
that wrestling comparative. That works. Did Black Sabbath change the world?
No.
The original Black Sabbath.
No.
We
As
all
much as
wound up
we
having
love
quite
them,
the.
But that's
Well,
our musical taste. All I'm saying is
Interesting.
Nirvana took us out of 1980s
Right.
or even the early 90s
Yeah.
and changed music.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, I'd be fair to say that
They
the
did.
NWA changed the world.
Oh, I still remember when they did F the Police,
Right.
and I was like, wow, who are these guys? Eddie Van Halen changed the world then.
He changed guitarring, but not the world.
Not the world.
So
Interesting.
when you talk about the NWA,
Wow, this is pretty deep.
when you
Anyway.
talk about the NWA,
Yeah.
playing it in today's
Nice
PC
guys with
system-
attitudes. That's what that stood for,
But
right?
when you play that music,
What?
like F the Police, like you said,
Yeah,
like that should not be allowed to be played on radio.
I agree.
If you're going to
I agree.
PC and shame everyone else out of everything else,
Right.
then that has
How
to
is
be
that
shamed
okay?
out.
I
And I
totally-
hear it all the time
I am
on,
with
on
you.
Sirius XM. I'm like,
I am with
dude,
you.
are you kidding me?
What was that song? Not recently, but maybe in the last year, where the chick was just being so specific about,
Dude, that song's out of control.
Right.
That's the margarita song.
I think so.
Give
Yeah.
me one margarita,
Yeah.
you could do this. Give me two margaritas, you
What
could do
on
this.
earth?
I'm like, are you kidding me
If
right now?
if a 7-year-old girl hears that, it's just like, hey,
Well,
what
dude,
are
just
we
think
doing
about
here?
today's TV.
7-year-old guy.
How about today's TV?
Yeah.
Kids know about everything by the time they're 7.
I know.
Just off of a commercial.
Are you more and more grateful as the years go on that we grew up when we did?
I would say that we're probably the luckiest generation because
We were
didn't,
pretty lucky.
We could enjoy 50s and 60s music.
70s
I'm just
too.
using examples.
70s too.
But then you come out of just nothing into a whole computer age.
Right, and we saw that.
We see it, yeah.
We were slowly assimilated into
Yes.
it too.
And as just a pure wrestling fan,
Yeah.
think about what we saw in wrestling.
In wrestling, forget about it. We saw everything. We saw when it was a sport. We saw its complete transference to entertainment.
You saw the
Saw
Monday
it
Night
all.
War, the Monday Night
Saw it
Wars. You
all.
saw Black Monday.
We saw the birth of Vince McMahon Jr.
Dude,
Right? He was an announcer when we started.
and not to be morbid, but we saw some of the most horrific wrestling deaths.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We've
from
seen quite
Owen
a-
Hart
Yep.
to Benoit.
I watched that live to Benoit.
I mean, the list is the list just goes on.
Well, what
and
about
on and on.
reading in the mags about Bruiser Brody back in the day? I mean, even that bothered me, and I had barely gotten to see him wrestle because these were the magazine days.
RJ Hudson says, never was a fan of Nirvana. I thought Alice in Chains was a lot better.
That's a preference. I mean, you're comparing two
get that,
great bands.
But Alice in Chains did not change music.
I agree with
Now-
that.
now,
Alice
if
in
Alice in
Chains
Chains
was
is a-
like the Black Sabbath of the 90s with harmonies, which I really dug.
Here's a question for you,
Yeah.
music man.
Sure.
If you're the first pick,
Yeah.
so example,
Okay.
if the Rolling Stones were picked before the Beatles to
Someone.
come to the States, are the Rolling Stones the Beatles? Does that make sense what I'm trying to say?
It makes perfect sense what you're trying to say. There was a huge difference between the Beatles and the Stones. The Stones were not good looking.
Right.
The Beatles were.
Well, no, there's certainly a reason why.
Especially John and Paul.
But there's certainly a reason why they picked the Beatles. I
Right.
get that. But my point is, we're playing what if. If the Rolling
Right.
Stones are the first ones to come over the States, are they the Beatles?
Not
If
necessarily.
Alice in Chains is the first grunge
Not
band
necess-
to be, are they the Nirvana?
Not necessarily.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then there's the slow and steady wins the race. Like Judas Priest was big before Iron Maiden, but all these years later, it's pretty much neck and neck now. all these years
I
later.
honestly think Maiden surpassed
I
Priest.
agree
by a
with that,
mile.
but I was trying to be kind to the Priest fans,
Right.
because, and I'm a Priest fan too, but that is what it is.
But again, those are bands we like. We're
Mm-hmm.
talking game, just like baseball, game changers, basketball, game changers,
Right, Gretzky
hockey, game
Was it-
changers.
Jordan was a game changer.
Think about this. We talk about our generation. We got
Yeah.
to see the Michael Jordan, LeBron
Yeah,
James.
we did.
Pretty amazing
Not
stuff.
for nothing. You know what was even more amazing was the Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. That was out of control.
Dude, I got to tell you, I
That
watched
was
a
the
documentary
greatest.
on that not too long ago, again, for the third time.
And those guys went back to college,
They
man.
single-handedly
They changed it.
fixed basketball. They fixed it.
They saved
it was a dead sport.
They saved it. They saved it. I mean, the fumes of Dr. J coming in from the ABA to the NBA started to put some sexiness into basketball on a commercial level, agreed?
Absolutely.
And then Bird and Magic just took it
All
to
right,
a whole...
here's a crazy thought. It was
Sure.
just thought I wasn't thinking about it until you just brought this
Oh,
up.
go for it.
Does Vince McMahon get credit for Johnson Bird? Because think about it.
Keep going.
Sports back then wasn't gimmicked. right? They weren't pushing the personality of the player.
They started to. With
now
John
you
Cena.
start watching wrestling. Now, regular wrestling, like George Championship Wrestling, whatever. Nah.
Right.
Now you start watching the WWE with the over-the-top characters.
Right.
And people now
the Hogans and the Pipers. And
is there a point that David Stern, I don't think it was Stern was in charge at the time, but whoever the NBA commissioner was,
a long time.
said,
okay,
we need to push these guys and put them over the top, make them over the top like Vince McMahon and his WWE.
Well, if you really want to trace, it's possible, but if you really want to trace back, I feel like the first athlete that...
By the way, Jay Will says, when I was a kid, I watched NBA Finals on tape delay. That's how bad a shape they were in.
Right. That's true. If I have to trace back to the first athlete that made things kind of prime time, where everyone was paying attention and the ladies started showing up at the events, was Broadway Joe Namath.
That's a great point.
I mean, he put everything on the map. The Super Bowl got named the Super Bowl on the third one. The first two games were the NFL AFL championship game.
Joe turned it Lawrence O'Brien was before Stern. Thanks. Thank you, Jeff.
There we go.
Love these guys.
Yeah, Stern
you guys are
was
so
around.
smart. You make it so easy.
You make us look smart. Thank you.
I don't feel bad about knowing it because I know they know it. And they're going to tell me what
Right.
it is.
I wouldn't have
love
remembered.
that shit.
That I wouldn't have remembered.
Jay Will says Joe Namath and O.J. Simpson.
O.J. Simpson was a stud back in the day. Now he's a dud. But, what are you going to do?
Again, I think wrestling should really get a lot of credit.
As far as presenting the show?
Yes.
Heck yeah. I agree. I absolutely agree with that.
So I got to laugh at something, dude. I have to laugh. I got a message on our Monty and the Pharaoh Facebook page.
Okay.
And it was a picture of RVD.
Right.
And it says Pharaoh. Question mark, question mark, question mark.
All right.
So, not having my head in the game, and I'll tell you personally, I didn't watch AEW last night. So at that point, I had no idea what had happened. Not a clue.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So everybody knows now that Pharaoh's favorite wrestler is
one of them.
Very well.
Hogan is still Hogan.
On the poster.
I love RVD.
Right.
Obviously, he's
so we got him up there anyway.
Yeah, he's way up there.
So I was like, oh, they're probably just like saying Pharaoh looks like RVD, which, by the way, the picture kind of looked like you. I got to be honest with you.
Look like RVD?
He has an opponent. He kind of looked like it.
Get out of here. That's
but anyway, once I get caught up,
RVD lost weight.
Find out that
if I look like RVD,
I find out that RVD does this.
What the? Huh?
So he comes out on AEW. Now to face off against Jungle Boy.
Okay.
Now we spoke about last week.
Yeah.
That AEW is trying to push this ECW angle.
Right.
Right?
Right.
I wasn't expecting RVD.
Right.
But he came out. Huge pop, by the way, guys. I muted the video
fans
because
seemed to know he was coming out. They were chanting his name.
They were. You were 100% correct.
They were chanting his name.
Here's my first question to you.
Yeah.
Big deal. I get it.
Is it?
How much money did Tony Khan pay
for that?
For Pantera. For that theme song.
Oh, that's
the first thing I thought about. This is a very short little gimmick match that's going to go on.
Yes.
And he'll be gone.
Right.
How much, for the first time I say this, I think I finally understand what a wrestling mark is.
Yeah.
I don't care how rich Tony Khan is. God knows what he paid for Pantera.
We've seen him throw money around. Eventually, we've probably figured out, his father's going to be like, I looked at the books, and you sell that toy. That's what I think. Now, think about it this way, though. Tony Khan's got a choice when he brings in RVD, right?
Right.
He knows, actually, there's almost no choice, but there is. I'd like to know what you would have done. He can't use one of a kind, obviously. One of a kind. He can't use that one, right?
Understood. Yep.
The other one that he always came out to in ECW, since they're doing the ECW angle, was, of course, Walk from Pantera with the great Dimebag Darrell.
Yep.
So, what would Mike do? Because you might say to yourself, there ain't no way I'm dropping $20,000 for 20 seconds of Walk. I ain't doing it.
I think it's more than that, dude.
It could very well be. I'm just throwing a number out
there. If you and me, again, we always spoke.
What would you do?
We were running the book. and you said, "Hey, we got to do Pantera. We can't have him come out." I would say, "Dude, we got to get another song. You can't."
You know what?
spend
You
this
know what we
kind of
should.
money."
You know what we would do if we owned it? You'd be like, "All right, hit it, Pharaoh," and I'd be like, "One of a kind." Do-do-do-do. Now you're not playing the original.
but
you're not playing the original song. I'd be like,
I just look.
One of a
If Rob
kind.
Van
We can
Dam
do it.
is going to stay with the company for a while,
What's he gonna
fine.
do?
He's not.
What is
That's
he
the
there
problem.
for?
He's there to do the job for Jungle Boy.
But you know what's-
Jungle Boy's going to go over on every. I guarantee Tommy Dreamer's going to show up.
Right.
Bubba Ray's going to show up, and they're going to go let Jungle Boy.
They're
get
gonna
over
at least
on
cut a check to Sabu.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, it would be nice. By the way, though, and I'm surprised you haven't said it yet.
Go ahead.
You got. Also, real quick, Jungle Boy. I like that new look. I mean, like I know he's been changing into that, but
Yeah.
I think he looks pretty cool.
Still got a problem that he's 140 pounds. So.
I'm getting there.
Yeah,
Did
right.
you notice? Now, how old is Rob now?
Rob's our age.
Is he?
Yeah.
Or maybe a little older, though, right?
Might be a little older.
Might be a little older.
Great
okay.
shape. Great shape.
Great shape. Did you notice when they stood side to side? Rob's like a behemoth next to him.
Absolutely.
And I
Rob's
was
not,
like,
well, he's been in studio.
Yeah,
he's
he's
not
in great
a small
shape.
guy.
No, he is
He's got
not.
very large hands.
He's in great shape.
But you're 100% right. It's like.
And you know what's funny? Back in the day, Rob Van Dam would have been considered, compared to Triple H or Randy Orton, not that big.
No, not that
And look
big.
at how big he looks
But,
next to
you know, dude, I've been kind of thinking about that. Like, there's really big guys.
Yeah.
And then there's that
Who's the
Bret
big-
Hart, Shawn Michaels guy.
Right. Rob's in that category.
Yes.
Jericho's in that category.
Absolutely.
Okay, that works.
And that's fine with me because they're
It
big
is.
enough.
They're
I never
absolute-
thought at any time
Bob
it was Bret Hart.
Backlund.
Bob Backlund.
Bob Backlund's in that
I never
category.
thought that Bret Hart's not big enough to fight King
Right.
Kong Mosca. You know what I mean?
Right,
Whoever
right.
he was
No,
fighting.
that's true.
Never
That's
came
true.
across my mind.
It didn't hurt that he was strong as crap and could do all those moves on those guys.
Hart was a big guy. He was
know?
not a small guy.
Yeah, agreed.
Here's the other thing, though. This was disappointing.
Yeah.
What about loyalty, dude?
What about it? With
The
what?
dude just got to the Hall of Fame. They brought him back a couple of times. And now you just go over for the money to AEW?
I agree with that. I agree with
Are
that.
you okay with him
Loyalty's
going to
got to
AEW?
count for something.
I would think
mean,
at some point. It's like, does Rob Van Dam really need the money? Doesn't seem like it.
No, he
When he's
seems
here,
like-
he didn't seem like he needed the
he
money.
seems like he's got it together.
When you see him on the internet, he's just smoking weed,
Right.
hanging out with that hot chick is.
Right.
So, or as many hot chicks. It's like,
Right.
So I understand, but
Well, let's hope he at least did what Nakamura did and, like, you know, had the blessing of the company when Nakamura recently went back to Japan for a match. What was it, with Muta, if I'm not mistaken?
right.
You know what I mean? Do you think Rob may have called the WWE before he made this appearance?
good question. That did not cross my mind.
It's interesting.
That,
Who,
you know
who
what? That
knows?
was- I will tell you
Who
this, though. I
knows?
think at some
I know
point.
I would. You know what I mean? I'd be like, you know.
But I think at some point, I know it's business, but at some point, you have to be a little vindictive. You got to be like, hey, Rob, you'll never be back here again.
Oh, I could
You know
tell
what
you.
I mean?
Well, I can tell you with a straight face, if we own the company and someone did that right after we put them in the Hall of Fame, that would eat shit and die.
Yeah, right. You're never coming back no matter what.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not like the WWE needs Rob Van Dam or needs this or needs that.
No,
right?
they don't.
But it's like, and the same thing for AEW. If a guy jumps from AEW to WWF, if I'm Tony Khan, I'd be like,
Right.
you're done.
Honestly, if AEW had their priorities set, they wouldn't even be doing this angle. How's that sound?
I don't know if it's a bad angle.
I'm not saying it's a bad angle. What I'm saying is worry about growing your future. Worry about your soil.
Well, aren't they doing that with Jungle Boy? Like if they're going to put him over the AEW
guess
guys?
they are, but what's the great victory in pinning Rob Van Dam?
That's a great point.
I'm serious.
Right.
I couldn't be more serious. Have him pin, I don't know. Give me someone legit over there. Give me someone legit.
Not to mention
That's currently
Jungle
there
Boy could
and-
beat that whole list. Bubba Ray, Tommy Dreamer, whoever. Blah, blah, blah,
Right.
blah, blah. I don't take him any more serious.
Now, hold on. What is this, the ECW version of something that was done much better when Randy Orton was the legend killer?
Right.
I mean, what the hell
That's
are we
very
doing?
good.
They do nothing but steal shit.
Right.
That's really what this is to me, but they do it all the time. And I find it ironic that their fan base is based on people who hate the company that they steal everything from.
The owner.
I don't know. Anybody else following this nonsense?
No,
What
but the owner who knows
Yeah.
about as much about wrestling as we do.
Wait a minute. Don't insult us like
I understand.
that. What are you talking
but
about?
He's quick to answer the the fans' needs.
Right.
And
that's fine.
And
I
he
think.
pulls the trigger too
Yeah.
fast.
Right.
I mean, we'll talk about it a little later down the line, but the Cody Rhodes documentary. You know when he
Ooh.
started in the WWE, his first
Right.
match was against the before mentioned Randy Orton that you just
Right,
discussed.
okay.
And Randy beats him.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, at what point, like, I was thinking, like, AEW, it's like, why don't you build a guy that way? He gets beat, and then he gets better, and then he gets better.
I mean, like LA Knight's coming around now?
He's coming around.
Right.
He is coming around.
Yeah, he is.
But it's like they've tried that with some guys, and then they just bail. Like the kid that just beat Jericho. Like that whole thing, he beat Jericho.
Was that Garcia?
No, it was that other guy.
But didn't Garcia make a splash a while back?
I can't remember.
What's he doing? It was like Daniel Garcia. What
does
a
a stupid
match!
dance.
Is that what he does?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Real quick, ex-WWE star to face 45 years in jail. Our
What?
friend Ted DiBiase Jr.
Oh no.
Is
Get out.
rumored to be facing 45 years in jail. Thoughts on that with old Teddy?
What thoughts could I possibly have about that? That's horrendous. Was that with all the embezzling or whatever he was doing?
Yeah, the
He was
Brett Favre thing and all that.
ripping
bullshit.
people. Well, what's going to happen to Brett Favre?
I don't hear anything.
What, the big names are going to just be let go? It's like, you were just junior.
Well, I would have to think that DiBiase might have been the head of this whole snake, and Brett Favre is just a piece of it.
Well, congratulations there, buddy. Enjoy the soap drops.
My point is,
I don't know what else
I was
to
thinking.
say.
I was thinking about this. Again, I saw not a documentary about like where are they now, and the dude lives in this huge mansion. It's like, all right, if you're gonna be
when
a
is
thief,
enough is enough?
take a little.
When is enough
Take
enough,
a bite.
though?
Take a bite.
Honestly, bro, when is enough enough?
You're right.
How much does somebody really need?
You're 100% right.
I've told you 1,000 times, if we were blessed enough to make it, I just want to go into the woods when I'm not on the air.
Right.
I want to have a
Fair
house
enough.
with a little creek and be left alone.
Fair enough.
I
I get it.
Is there something wrong with that, by the way?
No, not at all.
What would you do? What would you do? Like, let's say, XM Series comes calling, it's the full-time job for Monty and the Foul, you're doing well. Would you be like, yeah, off to Manhattan for a night of...
I would say let's do some events.
Right.
Let's get involved with the WWE. Let's
Right.
get involved. I wouldn't want to get involved. I got to be honest. I wouldn't want to get involved with AEW because I totally just don't even believe in the product.
Right.
So when I don't believe in it, how can I have any sort of passion towards it?
Right.
So at that point, I'll be fully acting, and clearly I'm not an actor, right? I'm not good at it. So
Right.
I would want more for us. I'd say, okay, let's keep pushing.
Right.
But I totally get what you're saying. Go in the woods and do what you enjoy. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, when you're working, you're working. When you're off, leave me alone.
I don't agree with stealing people's money like
No,
this guy
that's
did.
horrendous.
This
That is
goes
really
to,
bad.
unfortunately, this goes to the levels of like Chris Benoit.
What?
You know what I mean? It's
Ouch.
like you're stealing. You're stealing
Yeah,
millions and millions of dollars.
It's a different form of killing, but
Yeah.
I know what you're getting. What about, wasn't Senior involved in this at all? Or
It's been named, but clearly if they're not going after him,
What a terrible, sad ending for a guy who, when I first looked at him, I thought to myself, wow, Ted DiBiase Jr., this should be a promising career. What the hell?
well, one thing I impressed when I think we talked about it like 3 months ago.
Okay.
Before we really knew what was going down in this, when I saw him in maybe we did, and that's why we brought it up.
Yeah.
But in the documentary, he's got a camp for underprivileged kids, and he's with them, and he's helping them. I'm like, what a great guy.
Oh.
He gave up wrestling just for this. Incredible human being.
Fraud.
Right.
That's rough, dude. It is.
Last night, Dark Side of the Ring on Bash of the Beach. By the way, next Tuesday, we're doing our live watch-along for the final episode of Dark Side of the Ring.
I'm still
about
curious
our
to
friend
see how we're
Marty
going to
Jannetty.
pull this off.
So, we got to put it together, schedule, and try to, me and Bruce got to get together and try, and Benny. So it's Benny from Dan and Benny, you and me, and then Bruce from
I hope you
ESO.
ain't counting on my phone to function.
I think you'll be fine.
My phone is shot.
I think it'll work.
Oh, boy.
But anyway,
All right.
your thoughts on Bash of the Beach when it first happened. Forget
watched-
about what you know.
I watched it live.
Okay.
I was angry. I was very angry because
Did you think it was real?
Listen, this is back in the days when we actually paid for the pay-per-views.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I paid money for this damn thing. I can't remember how much it was. It could have been $20 to $30. I can't remember. It was a couple of decades plus ago. I'm watching this.
Wait a minute. By the way,
Yeah, go
RJ
ahead.
says, even for $1 million, Monty, you wouldn't cover AEW?
Yeah, you would.
Yes, I would.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you for helping us get straight to the chase.
Wait
Wait a second. How much of that million do I get?
Hey, let me ask you this: honestly, if Tony Khan offered us, $100,000,
We're there.
I could fake it for you.
Yeah, you could. You could.
It'd be hard, but I could do it.
would-
Go
yeah,
ahead,
it
finish.
would be hard.
Go with Batch on
We'd be
Beach. I'm
dumbing down
sorry.
our product.
I
forgot
RJ,
where I
you got
was.
me.
Where was
You got
I?
me.
You were asking me. Oh, the night of Bash.
night of Bash of the Beach.
Okay, so yeah, like I said, I dropped like whatever it was, 1999 to 29.90. I can't remember. And I'm watching this, and I was so the second Jeff Jarrett laid down, I was like, oh, something's up here. Whether it was real or not didn't matter to me at that given moment. I was just irritated to shit that Jeff Jarrett laid down. I saw the Hogan reaction, and I could see, at least from what I could tell, Hogan seemed legitimately like, what the fuck? Okay? I was already beyond annoyed at Vince Russo for the shit show that you'd call his tenure in WCW.
And by the way, once we get into this the Dark Side of the Ring, he'll tell you differently. He'll tell you that when he came aboard, him and that other guy, the JR imitator, I forget his name.
Okay.
The ratings went up. And mind you, I will tell you this, it's kind of funny. The ratings were like 3 million something.
The JR imitator, was that Ferrara?
Ferrara, thank you.
Yeah,
right.
you got it.
But the ratings were in the 3 million.
But don't forget, in those days, the ratings were...
Yeah.
Wrestling was pretty hot.
It's not just that. You didn't have the internet, right?
Right.
So it's like, it was must-see TV.
What people are also forgetting, and what Russo fails to mention, is just what we recently saw with AEW with that launch show. It was sexy. When Russo and Bischoff reunited, I remember that show. They had balloons in the ring, and they took the belts off all the old guys.
Which I hated. I was like,
it was as dumb as could be.
I hated that.
But everyone tuned in because they were curious. What about the next couple of weeks?
Nothing.
What about the month after?
Nothing.
Russo's fucking delusional. I'm sorry.
I agree.
I said the F word, and I've been very good so far.
I'll be straight.
But delusional.
So we had a Rizzy.
Yeah.
Okay, and look, let's be honest.
Yeah, go ahead.
Rizzy's as much as a snake as, little do we find out.
It's a pretty chubby snake.
He's
He's a pretty chubby snake.
I
wonder if he swallowed a cow and it never came out the other end.
You might be right.
What do you think?
But, so at first when we met a Rizzy, you're right, we don't know anybody.
Sure.
We were like,
yeah.
Oh, poor him, Vince screwed him over.
Right.
But when you get to know a Rizzy.
Yeah, it was like, get him,
what
Vince.
A worker. No, but it's not even that. It's like, the two workers working each other.
Right,
and
exactly.
Vince won.
Right. Yes.
Two thieves.
Two opportunists that you couldn't trust with a wad of spit.
Damn straight.
I agree.
What do you call it? Rizzy thought he was going to get over on Russo because Russo's getting sponsors. He's like, I'm making all this money.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, literally, Vince was just trying to get himself. So in the end,
right.
Rizzy, they
Russo won that one.
Russo won.
That's all there is to it. Yeah.
Yep. So, but,
I was very angry.
Let me read a couple of things.
Very angry when I watched this live. I was like, what the F did you just do to Hogan? One way or the other, I wasn't happy with it.
So, Russo's big thing on his show is he doesn't watch wrestling anymore. He hates it. Right? And he hates
the very
wrestling.
Thing that made him famous and made him money.
And all
he hates wrestling marks. Okay,
so
go ahead.
I'm going to paraphrase a lot of things.
Where would he be without those wrestling marks, by the way?
So his thing was he wasn't a wrestling writer, okay?
Oh, no?
He was trying to get bigger ratings with the casual fan, not the wrestling mark
I
fan.
understand what he was trying to do.
But again, if you listen to a Rizzy, and you can go to the interview there, he was a wrestling fan, and he reached out to a Rizzy because he was a big wrestling fan.
Right.
So it's, again, more lies to meet the situation.
A lot of spin doctoring.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
Now, again, was his programming trying to build for a bigger audience? I'm not going to deny that. Sure, baby. Right. That's what he was trying to do.
Sure.
Not a bad idea.
No.
But don't say you weren't a wrestling fan.
Right. He's full of shit.
And but at some points he's like, Eric Bischoff, because of the Dark Side of the Ring, Eric Bischoff is what the wrestling business represents. That's what he said on our Friends Busted Open Radio.
Okay. I see it there.
So,
listen, man, I went into that documentary and said one thing to myself. I am not going to bury anybody. Isn't that what he usually does anyway? What, now he's going to be a nice guy? Since when?
No, you're right.
Since when? He buries everybody.
You're right.
Nonsense. I'm not going to call anybody names. I'm not going to get into the third grade name calling. This guy should talk. He writes like a third grader.
Right.
I mean, what are we talking here? I'm going to go on that show and I'm just going to state the facts. Yeah, sure. I wouldn't believe the truth from him even if it appeared in the form of his usual lie. So whatever. I was angry. Were you? What did you watch it live?
Yes,
you did. Mm-hmm. What did you think to yourself?
I thought to myself, "Oh my God, every pay-per-view is just like some kind of
nonsense."
Wacky. Well, at the time, I thought, "Is this real?" Because I did think it was real.
Of course, there's nothing wrong with
because at that point we were conditioned to think things were real because shit was really happening.
Right.
Again, the Montreal Screwjob.
Yeah.
Whether I personally believe it was a work or not doesn't matter.
I think it's cool we still debate about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Owen Hart dying Like, all this stuff was, Mick Foley getting thrown off a cage.
Right.
It was like, oh,
Shock
my God.
after shock
so you're,
after shock
you're thinking
after
like,
shock.
oh, my God, this is real.
Right.
Little you find out it wasn't real. They had set it up.
Is that the bottom line?
Well, the bottom line is that when Russo came out the second time and cursed out Hogan, somehow that got Hogan angry. But
wasn't there a lawsuit?
Well, you
or was that kayfabe too?
Because Hogan kind of just wanted to get out of his contract.
Okay.
And he used Russo.
Okay.
And he made a lot of money. He got like all his money paid to him, and he was done.
Hogan's always been smart.
Exactly. Yeah. And he suckered Russo right into it. I mean, that's what I got out of the documentary. Okay.
So it started as a work, but it turned into...
Right. And then, Russo's like, Booker T was killing himself for 17 years. I was going to be the man. And he's the fighter for all the women.
Right.
And blah, blah, blah. Russo is the worst kind of snake.
Well, here's the thing and I agree with you, but here's what really ticked me off. Once you get to the management and the lifers and the people that have been there forever and will do anything to protect their spot no matter what, to me, that's what the business truly represents, and that's why I got out of it. And here it comes. I am not one of them. Here's the line. I am a regular guy. You put the world title on yourself, regular guy. So you obviously don't think you're a regular guy because you thought that little of the business to wrap the strap around yourself. Regular guy. So I got a problem with that, my friend.
He also put it on the
David
actor,
Arquette.
too. He did. He was the one, right?
Regular guy. I am a regular guy. Well, then, maybe next week we'll be champion. He's not a regular guy. What is this garbage? I'm just the all-American everyday guy. Yeah, you and Bruce Springsteen. Have you seen what he charges for tickets now? He used to be the all-American guy. Now he's the all-American bank.
Here's Monty's belief of the truth of what happened in the Vince Russo drama.
Yeah.
Vince got to the WWE. What was his name? Vinny, whatever.
Yeah, the loud fan they brought him in at first.
And wasn't he the writer with the magazine?
Right.
Then Vince sees some potential there.
Sure.
Works with him. Mm-hmm. They're doing really well. Mm-hmm. Vince, as if people hate him, whatever, it seems like Vince rewards people that do well for him.
Yeah, of course he does.
He then starts a new show called SmackDown.
Right.
Vince Russo's his head writer.
Right.
And Vince Russo tells him, I can't do both shows. And Vince says, you're making more enough money now. Go get a nanny. And, Vince is like, oh, if you know Italians, they're all about family. And I was like, I'm done, right? Here's the reality of it. WCW was knocking on Vince Russo's door behind everybody's back.
Sure.
Vince saw an opportunity to get out, and he got out, and he went right to WCW.
Right.
Because he heard that when this was all working, Vince was the guy really overseeing everything, which was probably the case. Mm-hmm. Goes to WCW, and you see all the holes in Vince Russo.
In his game.
And he quickly gets released. Mm-hmm. Eric Bischoff comes back. Mm-hmm. At that point, I don't understand really what's going on. Maybe it's not enough ratings. Maybe they just wanted to get rid of wrestling. Or maybe someone said, we're not going to let this guy Russo sit at home and just collect money. Drag his act back here.
Get his ass back here.
And make him quit and work for Bischoff. It didn't work.
No.
It ends.
Right.
What does he do? He goes to TNA. He makes a mess out of TNA.
Yep.
Now, he was getting credit that he got the women over and blah, 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 blah. And back then, TNA was doing 2.5 million viewers, okay? Because this is, again, before
Spike
the
TV,
internet, right?
Yeah, sure.
Here's the deal. Mm-hmm. Vince Russo took Jerry Springer.
Yes.
He brought it to wrestling.
Yeah, he did.
And it worked.
For a little bit.
And then it stopped working.
That is correct.
And he was done.
Right.
And it didn't work anywhere else he went.
No,
and he's bitter, but he made a lot of money doing it.
And he sure did. And the only reason why it worked when it did work was just because he had...
Thank you, Davio. Vic Venom was his name.
Right.
Go ahead.
The only reason that it did work for him when it did work was just because he had Vince McMahon to filter through the garbage.
Absolutely.
Vince McMahon was like going through a dumpster and pulling out the sandwiches that weren't eaten.
Vince Russo is a liar who manipulates things.
And always will.
You know what? I never liked him to begin with.
Yeah.
I didn't like him as a wrestling booker.
Yeah.
I don't like him as a podcaster.
Yeah.
I don't like him when he talks about the Mets because that drives me nuts.
The Mets?
Oh, he's always talking about the
I
Mets.
thought he's a Yankee fan.
No, he's a Met fan.
He always wore the Yankee shit.
Okay, he may be a Yankee fan. Whenever I tune into his show, which is very rarely,
right,
he talks what he would do if he was a GM.
Who the hell wants to listen to his opinion on baseball?
Exactly. Anyway, Vince Russo, bitter as usual.
Right.
again, you were trying to get rid of the older wrestlers. I get that was your plan, but you should have went about it a different way.
Right. I totally agree. And I got to ask you this one. If Vince McMahon could go back and had the crystal ball, 2020 hindsight, you think he would have given this guy an opportunity at all?
If you knew what the outcome was going to be, yeah, you got to go with the outcome. Right? If you know the outcome's a win. Now, if it's like, hey, here's your set, we're going to do it over, but you don't know how it's going to come out, I don't know if I would chance.
Do you think Vince would have succeeded without his ideas? Hadn't he always before?
I got to be honest with you, back in those days, bro, we weren't really talking. I don't remember us talking.
It was getting scary.
I thought this
was
could
getting
be
scary.
the end. WCW was running them ragged.
Right. They were.
It was running. Listen,
for a couple
here's
of
the reality
years.
of it. As good as Vince Russo may think he is,
right.
The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Triple H, Undertaker, doesn't matter.
Right.
Doesn't matter. That's what did it.
That is what did it.
Those four were better than Kevin Nash,
right.
Scott Hall,
right.
Hulk Hogan,
right.
and Bill Goldberg.
In the end, yeah. Yeah, the sustaining power and the consistency.
1A and 1B.
I agree. Because when WCW conquered WWE for a couple of years, they did it with WWE cast-offs. WWE, thankfully...
Yes, very smart.
Thankfully, just like AEW's trying to do, thankfully, WWE responded with brand new Aaron Judges.
Yeah, right.
It's like, okay, well, I'll tell you what, we'll do the farm system, And it doesn't count that Stone Cold was in WCW because those idiots didn't know what to do with him. Stone Cold became Stone Cold in the WWE. There's a big difference.
A long time ago, I went to see Hulk Hogan and Friends in the old barn where they used to shoot the Hamburg matches in WWF.
Okay.
And the one question was asked is, if you do it over, Eric, who would be the guy that you would bring in to help you beat the WWE?
Oh, I know this answer.
And Bischoff, I'm thinking Shawn Michaels, Undertaker,
Sure.
I'm thinking all these names.
Yeah.
He says Vince McMahon.
Mr. McMahon.
Yeah,
the character of Mr. McMahon alone. Because that's the
That's
greatest heel in the history of the business.
That's right.
It's the greatest promoter in the history of the business.
That's right.
Boy, Vince really cornered the market, didn't he?
He did.
Real
Real
say
quick,
what you want.
Bully Ray says AEW should not announce any matches for Wembley.
Oh, that's brilliant. Hey, you want to go to the matches? No one's
they're-
fighting no one. Let's go.
They're sold out.
Then it doesn't matter.
Or they're going to be sold out.
Yeah, then it doesn't matter. Right? What do you think of that?
At this point, I can't say he's wrong only because they're sold out.
Right.
It's like it's not going to make a difference on
Yeah,
tickets.
I told you England was going to flock to that stuff.
I would have loved to him say that before they were going to Wembley. Don't announce any matches, you'll do well. Then I would say I'll give you credit. But saying it after it's already almost sold out.
Right, yeah, what are you saying?
And again, I feel bad for those 80,000 fans, right? Because those 80,000 fans are going to be treated to more AEW bullcrap.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yep.
Real quick, did you get a chance to watch Cody Rhodes documentary?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Must
but I
watch.
will, because I actually do have Peacock.
Let's hold that conversation because we're getting short on time.
Okay.
For next
fair
week.
enough.
You'll watch it next week, I hope.
Yeah, we'll discuss it. Absolutely.
You'll love it. I'm going to tell you right now.
That works.
Quick predictions, buddy, so we can get out of here till we get to the main shows.
I don't like predictions. Why do you do this to me all the time?
Ricochet, Logan Paul.
Logan Paul.
All right. Who's winning?
By the way, I think that's going to be the match of the night.
That's probably the opener, right?
I think it's going to be the match of the night.
SummerSlam Battle Royal.
I am so pissed off. This is where you put LA Knight?
He's going to win.
Okay, fine, but this is where you put him?
It's coming.
I want a Battle Royal. This is the slowest crawl in the history of...
It's coming.
All right.
It's coming.
Let me talk to you.
Drew McIntyre against Gunther.
Gunther
is... Hold on real quick. I think I saw Gunther is...
Where is he now? On his reign? Is that what you're getting to?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Monty, what you got?
Wait a minute. It was 434 days he's got to pass, right? Or something like that?
Yeah.
With Honky Tonk Man?
He's
close.
He's 424 is Morales.
Oh, crap.
He's right by Morales right now.
Okay.
I don't know if he passed as of right now.
Right.
But he's right by Morales.
All right.
Does he do it?
Why is this such a dangerous match for us?
Because it's Drew McIntyre.
Would you really?
It would be a mistake.
I agree, but you know what I was thinking in the back of my head? Sheamus has never won that Intercontinental title, right?
Right.
You saw that amazing series of matches he had with Gunther, right?
Yep.
You saw how angry he was at Drew McIntyre for taking his perceived spot, right?
Right.
God, do you think that they would be dopey enough to take the belt off Gunther, give it to Drew so Sheamus can finally win the Intercontinental title from Drew? Is that the storyline? Because it's a storyline.
I just can't take it from Gunther right now. He's too hot.
I agree. I don't think they should at all. So you want to go with Gunther?
We're going
it
with
gut
Gunther,
read?
right? We
That was
gotta
an
go with
interesting thing. I brought up.
No,
though,
it's a
right?
very great.
It's a storyline.
It is a great
Sheamus wants that
storyline.
belt. He still hasn't gotten it.
This might be the toughest one to pick. Three-way dance: Asuka, Charlotte, Bianca. Now, this I think is going to be the match of the night.
Really? Because I think that Ricochet and Logan Paul are just going to go nuts.
Oh, it's going to be great. I just have a feeling this one's the hot one. I'll help. I'm going to go with Asuka. Shockingly enough, I just have a feeling they're going to keep this belt on.
They're just going to keep it on her, huh? So what's the future hold for Charlotte and Bianca if they
I
do?
think eventually for WrestleMania, if you give Charlotte the belt now,
Yeah, it's too soon.
It's too soon. If you
I
give
agree.
Bianca the belt now,
too
it's too
soon.
soon. So now you could do Asuka and then start this little mini feud between Bianca and Charlotte, and one of them will win
How
the belt.
about the chance of Io cashing in on Asuka?
Quite could be a possibility.
I
Very
think
good
that
point.
that's what's going to...
I like that. You know what? I'm going with you on that.
Yeah.
Look at us. I'm
And
going
then you
with
got
that.
a nice feud going on with Asuka and Io because
Right.
we're starting anyway.
And then one either Bianca or Charlotte beat Io, and that'll be it.
Okay,
right?
we can go from there. All right.
All right, Seth Rollins, Finn Balor. I'm going to shock you with this one. I feel like
Finn's time.
I think Finn's winning the
It's
belt.
Finn's time.
I don't know why, but I think so.
I had heard something, maybe you heard it too, and I don't know how much truth there is to it, that Seth is kind of banged up right now. And, you know, it's really interesting. This one has a personal connection, you know, because Finn was... Did you catch the promo? 7 years.
Right.
I was at the match.
Yeah, I know.
I was there for
Right.
that match when they showed the red belt. No one liked it.
Right,
It was
yep.
the debut of the universe,
Yep.
and Finn won the match.
Yep.
But he got thrown into the, he got
Yeah.
all fucked up. This has been 7 years in the making.
I just think Judgment Day is so hot.
Is it a bad move though with Seth's popularity? Does he lose?
Here's
anything?
the bad move.
Does he lose anything?
I'm going to tell you
by
my
it?
fear here. My
Yeah.
fear here is they route Cody towards Finn.
I think that's what they're gonna do.
And then Cody wins that belt.
I agree.
And then the
It's
only
a
thing that saves it,
roundabout. It's
and
a
then you get that
roundabout.
unification between him and Roman.
I think you might have something there, Rabbit. That's possible. That's pretty
I'm-
cool.
I'm-
By the way, that's pretty cool.
Only if
but-
it ends that way.
Right. You got to have Cody and Roman at some point again.
Oh, you can't.
You can't let that be the way
No.
it was. Well, I lost. The story never ended.
That's
I mean,
it.
I couldn't finish it. Come on. No, I agree.
So we're going with
no,
Finn.
you know, it's weird. I was thinking that
We're going
last
with
night.
Finn.
I'm like, I think it's
Wow.
Finn. Now, what does that say, by the way, about Finn Balor? How do you feel about him now after all this
Not
time?
what I feel about him. I think it's all about Judgment Day.
Has he at least surprised you over the years to be a little more than you might have thought?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's fair.
But again,
Go with that.
everything changed with Judgment Day.
Judgment Day's great.
Rhea, my feeling about Rhea changed at Judgment Day. Dom changed with Judgment Day. Always liked Damian Priest. Okay, always have.
Right.
Finn Balor totally changed with Judgment Day.
You know, I got to be honest. You may not think this, but believe it or not, I have liked Damian Priest since he was Punisher Martinez.
I believe it.
I liked him
believe
in Ring of Honor. I was like, this dude, man.
I believe
you
it.
know, but I'm still not sure about his overall it factor. When he's with them, I think he's enhanced by being with them, if that makes any sense. I think
Now,
if you peeled him and made him
Does
an
this go
individual...
a different way? If Finn wins the belt,
Yeah.
Damian doesn't cash in.
you have that
but you start
storyline.
that
I
problem.
love- boy, do I
and
love
now
that.
Rhea and Dom got to choose sides. Because Rhea and Dom are
Right.
at the hip.
By the way, Rhea Ripley, they're chanting "Mommy."
She's the greatest.
How great is Rhea Ripley? I mean, this is
And
ridiculous.
she's getting
how-
bigger and stronger.
She's so
Like,
great, and
she's huge.
Her promos are
Oh,
like
my
at
God.
this point.
All right, Cody against Lesnar.
Cody's got to win the feud.
Absolutely.
Cody's got to win the feud.
Ronda Shayna Baszler.
Ronda's really going to lose an MMA fight to Shayna Baszler.
I don't think so.
I don't
agree
think
with you.
so either.
I think Ronda
There's
leaves
no
the
effing
WWE.
Goodbye.
And where does that
F
leave
you.
Shayna?
I hope she gives everybody the finger. By
Well,
the way.
honestly, where does it leave Shayna? Who cares? Because Shayna's just awful.
Right. It's the tone of her voice.
It's
I don't mean
everything,
to
dude.
pick up.
It's
No,
just
but I
everything.
mean if you listen to her, you look at her, and you think that what's going to come out of the mouth, and this is not a Tyson thing, but maybe it is. Because she's kind of like, sounds like someone like, welcome to Wendy's, can I take your order?
Honestly,
I'm like, I don't know, it
I'll
feels
give you my
weird.
viewpoint. When I watch women's
She's a
wrestling,
badass,
I
though.
like looking at women.
Dude, easy.
All right, that's what I'm trying
Are
to
you,
say.
what are you saying?
Shayna Baszler is as close to a man as a man could be. It's like, ugh. Like, it's like, it's like just
A bit Samoa Joe-ish? Is that what
a
you're
little
getting at?
worse.
Worse
actually.
than Samoa
Yeah.
Joe. I am
Her
impressed.
eyebrows. It's just,
Yeah,
it's just awful.
not a thank you thing.
Yeah. Just
Yeah,
I'm
okay,
done.
all right.
All right, finally.
Yeah.
Tribal combat match. Roman Reigns defends against Jey Uso. I will tell you, A lot of the sheets are picking Jay to win the belt.
Well, they are planting some serious seeds of doubt, but I've got 2 words.
They're doing their best.
I've got 2 words for you. Acknowledge me.
Exactly. Well, with that, and you know what? With that, send us on our way because that is it. That you're 100% right. Done.
You've been watching This Week in Wrestling, and until next week in wrestling, acknowledge us. Later.